Hello Supercoaches, it's been a massive week in Supercoach land. We have announced a new stats provider for 2026. That is Stats Perform. They provide the official stats for the NRL. So we've now got a single source of truth, which is great. We've got quicker updates, which is sensational. There's no waiting around till Monday for an update on a game that happened on Thursday. Updates will happen within 3 hours of the game finishing. So there's lots of good news here, but not all stat systems are built the same. Whilst you would think that a tackle is a tackle on every single stat system, there are some variations in the definitions and the criteria. Most of them are very, very similar, but the particularly big ones are tackles, which are plus 9% on the new system, and try assists, which are they're -6 down, so not that much, but the style of player who gets the assist may change a little. We've got Wilso and Jett Hatton in here today. Jett, what's your big takeaway from the new stats?
My biggest takeaway, as you mentioned, is just the try assist. Obviously, it's been such a injection over the last few years on who gets the try assist and who created it, but now it's just simple. Whoever passes it last gets the assist, so it's a big win for centres. See a lot more uptick in people getting their centres in. So, obviously it's a lot more black and white now, and that's good, but that's the biggest change for me.
Yeah, there's going to be a big uptick for guys like Herbie Farnworth in particular. What's your big takeaway?
My big takeaway is that you sort of just mentioned it with the tackles being up 9%. I think it's really solidified for me that sort of having a hooker that has high attacking upside, plays big minutes, and also makes a ton of tackles are going to be really, really valuable. So I think Harry Grant or Blake Brayley, those sorts of guys become near must-haves now. Like, they've got the upside, and now they'll see a big surge in their base stats as well. So I reckon it's important to have a gun hooker now.
Yeah, I'm super keen on Harry Grant, but I have been since the team picker came out before Christmas, because he's got a good draw. And that's kind of one of the points I want to make is, yes, these are significant changes. People also just need to take a deep breath as well. I still think that old school super coaching, looking at team lists, looking at schedules, it's still really, really important, arguably more important than these changes. I've redone my team just then. I've only made 3 changes. I've made a heap of changes. I've only made 3 changes based on this new stat system. One is getting Isaiah Yeo in, who I think is a must with the new stat system. He's about 9% up. We'll get more detail on that soon. Herbie's in for me as well. He's about 7% up. And Toby Couchman also well up. So there's 3 guys in my team who I've changed out of 26. That's it. I'm hearing similar stories across most teams, but I've made a whole bunch of other changes to my team as well. They're all team list dependent. There's like Jermaine McEwen I've gotten rid of because he's been named on the bench for the trial. Looks like he'll play on the bench. I don't think Tom Chester is going to make round 1 as a cheapie. I don't think David Farley is going to make round 1 as a cheapie. I don't think Makasini is going to be a cheapie for the Tigers. So Jacob Carraz, I probably don't want anymore, given that he's going to miss the final trial. So the changes I've made to my team are based on team selections. It's not based on this new stat system.
Yeah, I've made a ton of trades as well, but yeah, similar to you, I think I've only made like 2 or 3 that are like directly based on this, and I'm sort of fading on Sam Stone Street a little bit, just because he's one of those guys who doesn't really have the base anymore, and I've brought Brian To'o back into my team. So just like a few little ones like that, nothing too crazy.
Are you fading on Stone Street, your boy?
It depends really. I didn't like that he was named this week. I would have thought that he wouldn't be named, and like Sione Katoa would be rested for next week. So it tells me that he's not fully locked in, and there's a lot of young, talented outside backs there at Cronulla. So, the good thing is we don't have to lock in Stone Street for our team now. So he's not there round 1. We don't have to run with him, but it is alarming. Even if draft, that sort of stuff, if you're going early. So.
Yep, we'll get to his percentage drop in a second. I think it was around 2% off the top of my head. Speaking of all those percentages, they're up on the site now. It is a free story. You can get in, see the effect on every single player. We've adjusted the scores for every single player from last year. It's free. Get in there. It's the most popular story on the Code Sports website by a squillion. About 20,000 people have looked at it so far, but I really want to get that number up to 190, 200,000, because that's how many people have been playing Supercoach this year. I want everyone to read that so there's clarity across everything. You can see, unfortunately, we weren't able to change the prices this year because we just simply didn't have enough time. Hopefully you can get into that story and get your grasp around which players are going to go up, which players are going to go down. I'll also be doing a live Q&A next week, so you can harass me with all your questions about the scoring system. Then that'll be, I think it'll be Monday at noon, plus I'll be doing a Teams list one as well on Tuesday afternoon, heading into the team announcements at 4 o'clock. So heaps of questions obviously coming through over social media. I've got a selection of them to hopefully cover all of the topics that are getting floated around. First one is, are player prices priced on the new stats? No, unfortunately, they're not with the timeframes that we had. We just couldn't do it in the amount of time. We would have had to have done that by the time the team picker came out in December, and we just couldn't fit it in, unfortunately. But it does create big opportunities. So we'll go through it, but you'll see guys are going to probably go up in price. Some guys will go down in price, and we'll go through that in a sec. Hookers, we'll go through them first. Generally, they are up because tackles are up by 9%. You've also got missed tackles down by 11%. So turnaround there is that hookers, we generally make a lot of tackles, are going to make even more tackles under this system. There could even be, for some of them, a few more try assists. So we've got Harry Grant, 7.6% up. I liked him already. I liked his schedule, so he's going to stay in my side.
Yeah, I already had him in my team, and this is just even more evidence of why I think he's a near must. Like you said, he's got a good schedule, and there's more upside for him now and less downside. So I think he's awesome. I'm also really, really keen on Reid Marnie, who's up next, and he's one of the other big winners as well. Obviously, with Sonny Luke there on the bench of the Cowboys, it's a little bit scary, but I think I'm really in on him as well.
Yeah, I've had Blake Brayley in my team for the entire preseason, but with Harry Grant up 7.6% and Brayley's only up 0.04, I've just got to lean his way. He's saves me 50k, spend elsewhere to get guys like Isaiah on my team. I think I'm going to have to do it. Just last minute switch to to Harry Grant. And just another guy I was looking, obviously everyone's going Brandon Smith. He's in about 50% of SuperCoach's teams. It was interesting to see Kalani Going named in the back row at the Panthers. Obviously, Liam Martin will fill that right edge spot there, but he isn't guaranteed to play 26 games a year. I feel like that left edge spot is open, and if Kalani Going snags a spot there, even if he gets 50 minutes, he'll get good. He's 200,000. I looked at his New South Wales Cup stats last year. He actually won the premiership with the Warriors, playing 13. Played 80 minutes a handful of times, so he can do that. If he can lock in a spot there at Penrith, he's definitely going to be the best cheapie.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a beast in New South Wales Cup for a pretty long time, so this could be his chance to break into first grade. They've got that 14 spot open as well there, given that Summers and Schneider have left the club. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Blake Brayley only 0.4%, so I think people will go off him. Brandon Smith, 4.3%, so he's up a touch. Even so, I've been off Brandon Smith. I'm just not sure what his role is going to be at the Rabbitohs, so I'm going to go for a pretty strong stack at hooker. I think it's an improved position, so Harry Grant and Reid Marnie for me. No Brandon Smith. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The only thing that would get me to even consider Brandon Smith is if we see round one that he's starting at hooker. That's the only thing that's going to make me take a second look at him, to be honest. I'm really not into him at all.
Yeah, neither. I don't know if he's... The thing is, like, how much back row is he going to play? If he came on and played, let's say 20-minute role at hooker and then played 20 minutes in the back row, then he might be worthwhile. But they've got a very strong back row there. I don't know if that'll happen. Yeah,
they've got Garlic there as well. He's playing 13 on the weekend, and he can obviously play 9 as well. So
and Mamazelos.
Yeah, Pistol Pete. Yeah, I think I'm just going to roll the dice on Kalani Going. And if he doesn't get picked there, he's dual hooker 2RF, so he could just be nice enough.
So there are actually some losers at hooker. Some guys have lost out. Tom Starling, it seems to be the more attacking hookers, to be honest. The less tackle bots, more attacking guys. So Tom Starling down 2.3%. Api Coruscant down 2%, which is, I mean, it's big for draft players because depth at hooker is not great. And JMK is down 2% as well. Get to some more questions. Can you clarify how runs will be scored? It's essentially the same as last year. ball runner has to make contact with a defender for it to happen. There are some situations where that's not the case if you evade the defender rather completely, or there's an intercept, but it's essentially the same definition as last year. There was some confusion last week because Stats Perform includes line engagements as all in their all runs, but we won't be including line engagements. So the stat really to look for is Stats Perform's all runs minus line engagements. That's what we're going with, and the numbers are almost exactly the same as from Fox Sports last year. Another question, does a run before an offload takes place count as a run still? Yes, because in an offload, you're still making contact. That will absolutely count. And then offloads have changed slightly. It's still, the scores are very much the same. The criteria was the same, but we've changed the definition from effective offload to hand, and from ineffective offload to ground. But the numbers on those are very, very similar. So it looks like both stats companies had almost exactly the same criteria. Centre wing. Big news here because it looks like a lot of them will go up, particularly the centres, not so much the wingers. So we'll go through a few of them here. The main reason for that is what you mentioned before. Generally, the try assist under Stats Perform is given to the last pass, whereas under Fox Sports, the sweep play from the fullback, the guy who created the overlap, would often get the try assist, and then the centre would get the try contribution. So you look at a guy like Stafford Toa, who is a noted, I guess you could say, ball-playing centre, up 18%. That's the biggest swing in the game for someone who's played over 10 games or so.
Yeah, I couldn't entertain it all. Like all these top three guys we've gotten down here, Moses Sully, Brian Kelly, Stafford Toa, they get massive upticks, but their job security is just not great. So obviously they're great numbers to look at, and they're going to get a lot more points in that role with the way the new stats are, but I just could not entertain at all.
Yeah, maybe more relevant in deep sort of draft leagues where, you pick every team needs 4 centre wings. So these kinds of guys could have like some decent value pretty late in the draft. But otherwise, they're not big names. They will be more relevant this year, but I'm not really interested in some of the top guys there.
I failed to mention before that I am kind of considering Moses Sully, but I didn't want to admit it in front of everyone. But I guess I better. 15% is a pretty big uptick. The issue I've got with these guys at centre is that it's mainly to do with try assists that their scores going up. But how many try assists are they actually getting? In Herbie's case, it went from 4 under Fox to 9 under Stats Perform. So you're talking about 5 extra. Like, what are the chances of Herbie or Stafford Toa or Moses Sully, whoever it is, throwing a couple of try assists in the first few rounds to get that price rise? The chances are they're probably not going to do it, let's face it, or they might throw 1. So they have to be throwing them at the right time at the start of the season to be any good for us.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, at best case, they're like probably going to get over the course of the season 5 extra try assists. So like it's something that's only going to really come up every couple of weeks or so on average. So yeah, it's definitely not as big a thing that people are making it out to be.
Certainly Herbie Farnworth, I think he was popular anyway, but 7.5, is he a must?
Oh, he's not a must. So I'm trying to make every excuse I can not to have him in my team, just because he's so expensive and I want to have money elsewhere. But he's getting close to it. I think I'm gonna have to end up doing it. Him and Val Holmes are probably as close as a must as I think. Val gets so many of those try contributions last year, especially how good of that left edge is at the Dragons, and it feels like every time he ran the ball down that left edge, he'd tip it on and just always get the try contribution. So it's going to be a big win for him. But Herbie's going to be very hard to leave out of my team.
Your guy Kyle Iro, really good at it too. And we'll go through a couple of those. Stephen Crichton was doing that a lot. Just not quite sure. I like Crichton, but I'm not sure how much centre he will play because he did play that attacking role at fullback for the back half of the season.
Yeah, I'm not too interested in Crichton, but I do sort of think that it sort of solidifies this idea that you need like one big gun centre wing that's gonna not just like be consistent but also have good upside. So I do like Herbie. I can't just can't quite afford him at the moment. So I've sort of been going between Val and Kyle Ero, who I think I've settled on Ero for now, just because he's a bit more affordable, and it helps me bring Brian To'o back into my team, who's also randomly a bit of a winner from this change as well.
Yeah, the wingers are not as bigger winners as the centres are, but Kiraz is up 4%, which is good. I'm still a bit worried about that injury concern, so I've actually faded Kiraz.
I've moved on from Kiraz as well.
Brian To'o up 3.5%. So good news on a couple of really popular guys there. There are some losers though. I know you can't read into Latrell Mitchell that much because he switched positions. He was at fullback, he was at 5'8", he was at centre. He's down 0.3%. DWZ, a winger of course, down basically 4%. And Sammy Stonestreet, who we mentioned, down 2%. Let's go on to the meat and potatoes forwards, as I've called them. So I've combined the two RFs and the FRFs together here. Obviously, more tackles, as we said, 9% more under the new provider. That really benefits guys like Isaiah Yeo, 9.7% up. Does this make him a must-have? I just bought him in and chucked him in the flex.
Yep, I think he's a must-have. Even on regular years under the old stats, he was always a solid player. He's going to punch out 60 to 70 every year. And even the way that the Panthers draw is at the moment, they're going to be in close games every week. And obviously that's not good for guys like Brian To'o and Nathan Cleary. But the middle forwards like Isaiah, it's awesome. He's going to be in the middle, getting those third man in tackles, which he gets now. So he's definitely a must-have at 600k. He's definitely underpriced.
Yeah, I haven't brought him in yet because it's going to take some massive changes across multiple positions for me to be able to afford him. But I do really, really like him now. I already thought he was, probably a decent pod option, but this just makes it even more necessary, I think.
Terrell May, obviously a big tackler, loves all that work, 6.9% up. So got that buy in round one. So I just can't do it for Classic. He's gone up in draft rankings. I'd say people have probably put him up 10, 15 rankings, I reckon.
Yeah, well, I think he was already, borderline first round consideration. Now I think, depending on your league settings, if especially if you're in a non-captain's league, guys like him and Haas are, just extremely valuable. And I think, obviously with Classic, I wouldn't be considering him because of the round one buy, but draft, I think I would not hesitate to take him with one of the first overall picks, even with the first round buy.
I'm really considering Terrell May just because of his ownership. He was in about 100% of teams last year. He's 8% owned this year, and Payne Haas is probably one of the most popular players in SuperCoach. Obviously, it's that round one buy, so you cop the hit there. But if anything goes wrong with Haas or anything, and, Terrell May is going to be a massive improver off this. He gets those as third-man tackles all the time. 800,000 a year, so he's a bit cheaper than Haas. You're going to cop the round one buy, but I think I could definitely go him, and it saves you a bit of money to use elsewhere and free it up for guys like Isaiah Yeo and stuff like that.
Yeah, especially since people are going to want him later on in the season anyway.
Saves you a trade.
It's good for Kaloa Matangi. He's up 6.7%. I'm still a little bit worried about that off-season knee surgery he had. So I'm going to fade him, but the stats look good for him. Jermaine McEwen, we got next on this list, 6.6% up, but named on the bench for the trial. The opposite of that is that Thomas Cant has been named to start. Even kicked goals, took a shot at goal in the trial over the weekend. So we could have a starting kicking back rower for the first time since
Mitch Barnett.
It's been a while.
That may or may not be correct. We could have our new Corey Parker. No, not quite.
Not quite, but he becomes mighty tempting if he is named to start. I mean, they've named a pretty much full-strength squad for their trial this week, so I'm definitely fading McEwen, and Cant becomes a lot more interesting for sure.
Yeah. So you got Carrigan, who's up as well, 5%, so he becomes a genuine option and certainly goes up your draft boards. Preston as well, 5.3. Cameron Murray's up 4.8, but that's only based on about 30 minutes of game time last year. And this sort of stuff, these increases based on the stats don't matter for Cameron Murray. You're bringing him in because he is underpriced. He's underpriced because of that injury. Looks like he'll go straight back to that role that he used to play, playing 60-odd minutes in the middle for the Rabbitohs. So, look, again, old school super coaching still beats a lot of these, these small changes in the stats.
Yeah, and I think one other guy I think is worth really mentioning as well is Taniela Paseka, who is already pretty popular because he is pretty underpriced, but then he gets a roughly 9% boost from this as well. So I think he becomes a bit of a must-have cheapie as well.
Kai Pearce-Paul will go up draft boards too, 9%. Your mate Oblix Tawa, the guy who's been tackling people for fun in the playing
Netherlands,
in the Netherlands. I suggest you look up that video. Toby Couchman up 8.3%. This suits him. Loves the third man in, so I've brought him into my team. There are some losers though, which is a little bit surprising. I was expecting Tino Fa'asuamaleaui to be way up given what he does, but he's actually only 0.3% up, so essentially exactly even as he was last year.
Yeah, basically no difference to him. He's someone I haven't really had much of a look at so far this year, but I think now, like, this doesn't really affect him too much, but I think this sort of just solidifies for me that there's a few other front rowers that I would have ahead of him.
Yeah.
Or forwards.
Look, the word is that he will play in the front row, so he could get to a position as well for SuperCoach, but we'll make that decision later. David Fafita's down by 0.9%. It doesn't matter. That's not the reason you're bringing him in. You're bringing him in because you think he's going from his 40-odd minutes at the Titans, hopefully to 80-odd at the Rabbitohs. Got another question here. Tim is saying there's nowhere to find the stats based on these definitions. Some of them have been created for us. So for over 8 metres and under 8 metre runs, Stats Perform had to punch those numbers for us this week. In terms of the runs themselves, the best way to get them, if you want it, is to get all runs and minus the engagements. Onto 5/8 and halfback. These guys are the biggest losers. Fullbacks as well. We'll get to them in a sec. But your playmakers, your halves, your spine, except for your hooker, are definitely the biggest losers under the new system. Jonah Pezzett has actually gone down by 16%. That doesn't matter because obviously his price rise is going to be huge. Dylan Brown, 8.2%. I probably wasn't expecting that given how much he runs the ball.
Yeah, well, I think it's just, from what I sort of understand, a lot of the halves that, traditionally get a lot of try assists from passing the ball are going to lose some of those per game. They'll still sort of get try assists for kicks, but for Dylan Brown, for example, like at Parramatta last year, when Mitch Moses was on the field, he was more kicking, setting up tries by kicking, and Dylan Brown was more sort of running the ball and passing. So it sort of makes sense why I think he's down a bit.
On a Jerome Hughes, 9% down, which is pretty big. Does definitely seem to favour guys who kick goals. Isaiah Katoa is 8% down. I'll point out too, if you were calculating some stats using the all runs, guys like Isaiah Katoa had almost 240 or something more runs under Stats Perform because line engagements are included as all runs, but we're not including line engagements. So guys like Katoa and Cleary in particular, who are way ahead in that line engagement stat, won't be getting those line engagements under our system. Cameron Munster, look, I was just looking at my team then. 5'8" is disgusting. It's horrible. And Cameron Munster's minus 5.3%, let's face it, at his average, it's a few points, 3 points per game. I think he could make that up with his good schedule to start the year. So I've actually stuck with Cameron Munster, even though he looks like he'll be one of the bigger losers under this system.
Yeah, I've still got him for now. I think he is a slight loser, but I mean, pretty much everyone at the position is. So I think he's still, probably the best option at 5'8". It's really bleak there this year. So I think even though he is a slight loser, he's still probably the best option. Yeah,
I've still got him in there. I just can't justify going down to someone like Cody Walker. I just cannot do it at 36.
Yeah, no.
I really want Fletcher Sharp, but he's probably priced at his peak, and we've got no idea where he's going to play. Obviously named at fullback this week in the trial, but Callum Ponga's not going to take the field. Nico Hines, your boy, only minus 4.3, a couple of points really at his average. Good schedule to start the year, plus including some games at his home ground where he generally kills it. So are we going to stick with Nick?
I don't imagine it'll affect him too much really at all. Just the way he plays sideways across the field. a lot of his try assists, those cutout balls to Katoa and Stone Street anyway. So he doesn't normally play that sweeping role. The biggest thing in Nico, even though it doesn't make sense now, why he doesn't average that 90 to 100, what he used to in years past, was when they brought in the in-goal thing, when you drop the ball into the in-goal, and instead of a line dropout where if it goes out on the full, it's a penalty in front. Now it's just to play the ball. So that's where you just get all these points. But yeah, I don't think it'll worry him at all.
So he's still in for you?
Yeah. He'll be my round 1 captain as well, mate. So lock that in.
Question, I'm half considering it. I've currently got Mitch Moses in there. And look, he is minus 12% under the new stat system. So he's one of the biggest losers in the entire game. But he also picks up the goal kicking. So I think he'll be able to make that up and a little bit more rough schedule. So look, at the moment, he's my draft. A draft as in not SuperCoach draft, but my draft halfback for now, and I'll see what happens. I was going to ask you, the double cheapie at halfback was a big thing. Are you going to do that now that we've seen all these big drops in halfbacks?
No, I think I'd already moved off that strategy, but I think the fact that halves are some of the biggest losers on this list just means that it's an absolute no-go approach. You can't stack your halves with cheapies, I think.
Making money is going to be pretty tough for Ethan Sanders and Daniel Atkinson.
Yeah, I think you still definitely run with one of them, but definitely not both. I'd already moved off, and I'm going to run with Jaden Campbell, I'm pretty sure, who is a very, very slight loser on this list, but he's one of those guys that his scores are going to basically stay about the same. So I think I was already into him, and now I think I'm even more.
Yeah, only minus 1.2% for Jaden Campbell. He's expensive. I tried to fit him in before. I also tried to fit in Sam Walker, who's only 0.9% down, so almost spot on. But, can you justify spending that much on a position that more than likely comes down? I've got Mitchell Moses there at the moment, but it's definitely subject to change. On to fullback, they're probably the biggest losers all up. I don't think any popular fullback is going to gain out of this. Keanu Kinney is dropping 9.3%, but you take into account that he's priced at an average of 40 odd, and he's probably going to average 80 or 75 maybe. He's still way ahead. I still think he's a must-have. Yeah,
it does not concern me at all. He gets a lot of his base anyway through runs and tackle bust and stuff like that. Obviously, he gets those try assists off those sweeping plays out the back of Brimson and the like, but still a must-have for me.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. I think Kinney and Farlong are still basically must-haves. They're both losers on this list, but pretty much every fullback is. So I think they're both underpriced, and that means that you still run with them. I'm sort of less keen on... I still have Drinkwater as my flex, but I'm sort of less keen on running with 3 fullbacks now. And I haven't started to yet, but I'll probably toy with moving Drinkwater on and see what else I want to do with that flex position. Maybe I just chuck another gun forward there.
Yep, the days of running 3 gun fullbacks I think is over. I've had it all preseason until this week. I sold Drinkwater for Isaiah Yeo at my flex. So I'm pretty happy with that. Drinkwater is down by minus 5.9. I was definitely off him last week when Jackson Purdue was named in the halves, and his record with Drinkwater's record with Purdue in the team is not good. He averages about 58 compared to 90 or something when he's not there. So I was off Drinkwater, but then in the teams yesterday, Jake Clifford's back in the side. So I was kind of a bit excited for Drinky, but still looking at these stats, I don't think you can go with him. And Isaiah Yeo's a must. So I've locked that in. Kalen Ponga's down by 7.7% and has that injury issue as well. So I don't think you can go near Kalen.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I was saying, I think Kinney and Farlongo stack is the way to go, and I wouldn't judge you if you did run a third fullback in your flex, but I think basically everyone on this list I'd be happy to move on.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it 3 fullbacks still.
Yeah, nice.
That's because obviously we'll get to him, but I think the only non-loser out of this is Reece Walsh. And I had Ponga in there, but obviously under the injury cloud and stuff. But most of the times when Reece Walsh gets a try assist, it's because he passes it straight to him. He's got that nasty cutout ball And then when he passes it to guys like Shibazaki and Staggs, they don't pass it anyway. So
it's true.
he normally gets the try assist anyway. So I don't think he's 4.9%, which is way lower than some of these other guys. Yeah, I don't think it'll worry Reece Walsh at all.
Tedesco's down by a little bit. So in terms of draft, he was going very, very high, mostly at number 1. Is he now down to what, 4, 5? What are you thinking?
Yeah,
3?
he's still definitely someone to consider early on in the drafts, especially since fullback depth is not as good this year as it has been in the last couple of years. So I think he's still. I would still be interested in filling up your spine positions early on in the draft, but it definitely sort of changes your approach a little bit.
One thing I want to ask you is because you've been fading Farlongo all preseason. Now that he's down by 6.4%, admittedly out of position. These are stats from when he was playing on the wing. He barely played any fullback last year. So what are you doing with Farlongo?
I have said I've faded him, but at the same time, he's really hard to pass up at that price just because of how much ability he's got. I don't think the new system will worry him at all because I don't look at him as a playmaking sort of fullback. You look at him for those big explosive plays where, he gets the ball at the 40 off a kick and then, runs the field and breaks about 4 tackles. I think that's where he'll sort of get all his points, but you could definitely fade him just off these stats and off job security, stuff like that. That was the whole reason why I was going to fade him, not because of prices and stuff like that. So
let's run through some of the things from the teams yesterday. I mentioned Jermaine McEwen. Probably have to put a line through him with Thomas Cant named to start in the back row for the Knights. Other big news is Setu 2 looks to have won that wing spot at the Dragons. So David Farley named on the extended bench.
Yeah.
Either way, looks like Setu 2. If you've got David Farley, hopefully you can trade him to Setu 2.
Yeah, I currently have both of them in my team, which is rough.
Worse.
So, Farley, he played centre in the trial last week, which was already a little alarming, and then this week, not in the starting side. So, if you have David Farley and not Setu 2, then you just swap them.
The other guy who I've gone really cold on, I mentioned it earlier, but Tom Chester with that knee injury. The club says he's going to be back for round 1. But he was one of these guys who really needed to play 2 trials and have 2 good trials to be in that squad for Vegas. So I am definitely working on some contingency plans to not have Chester in my team. I did have a thought there that I could chuck him as my second fullback, actually, at one stage, because fullback is obviously coming down. Don't think I'll do that anymore. Well, I don't think I'll own him at all because I don't think he's going to play round 1.
Yeah, I'd imagine he'll spend the first few weeks in Q Cup, just getting healthy and getting that fitness base back under him. So he's just a wait and see, really.
Although the other factor to bring in here is the new 6-man bench. Let's say he gets named in jersey 19, which is, I think, probably likely, I'd say, because a lot of coaches are going to want to carry a centre wing in their squad in case a centre winger goes down. So does he come in? Let's say Zach Labert gets injured early, then Tom Chester comes on and doesn't get named and then comes on and plays.
There'd be no chance that happens. They want to get fitness under him and miles under his legs. There's no way they go, here you go, mate. First up off a knee injury, you're going to play no games. You're going to come off the bench as 19th man for us. They'll want him to get reps. So I'd imagine he plays.
He'd be a contender to get that bench spot later on in the season. I think to start the year, he'll probably
not early on.
The other guy who I don't think he's going to play, certainly not round 1 because they got the bye, I don't even think he's going to make that round 2 team, which is their first game. That's Macassini, extremely popular. Word out there, Tyson Jackson, one of our reporters out there who's in pretty tight with the Tigers, reckons that Skelton's got that job. So no Macassini, got a plan to be without him.
Yeah, I mean, the round 1 bye means you won't know until, 2 weeks into the season whether he actually is going to get that spot or not. So I think it means he's definitely one to avoid for now. But you'd have to think that he'd be the next man up if there is a single injury at the Tigers. So I think avoid to start the season, but definitely keep an eye on him and probably someone to bring in at some point.
Yep, so as I said earlier, arguably the biggest problem with SuperCoach right now is not the new stats system, it's the cheapies falling over at centre wing with Farley, Chester and Macassini all looking like they're not going to play. Your mate Halasima named at centre.
I think that's just for a bit of a fun day out for Big Lecker. I was thinking when I saw the teams yesterday, I was like, oh, you're Josh Feldy, you're playing for Manly now. You go, yes, get to play a bit of first grade this weekend in pre-season, and you're look at the team list and go, oh, there I am in the team, and then, oh, who am I lining up against? Oh, big, powerful back rower that's just going to run over the top of you. I'm like, oh, geez, maybe he wants to go back to Reggie's for the week. So
I'll run through a couple of other things from the teams quickly. No Josh Paxton, but it's a pretty low standard side. So hopefully that just means that he's so ahead in their plans. He's so locked into that starting edge back row spot that they didn't need to name him. Having said that, Siali Faimani has been named on the wing, so we get to have a look at him at the big centre wing cheapie. Cooper Byers at lock, which is good news as well.
You know what actually just occurred to me? I think Paxton is playing for the Indigenous All-Stars. So
right, there we go. Lasati has been named in a pretty low-strength Storm team, so I'm not sure what that says about his round one prospects, and no Joe Chan there, so maybe Joe Chan gets that edge spot. Elam Lukey, I'm becoming really keen on now that Jermaine McEwen doesn't look like he'll be a good mid-ranger.
Yeah, and they're about the same price, so it's a pretty easy swap. And he looked really good in the Cowboys' first trial, scored a try in the opening minutes. So I've actually brought him into my team for now, and job security looks decent. It was a bit of a throwaway line during the game, but one of the commentators, I'm pretty sure, said that Jeremiah Nanai could be out till round 10, which we were sort of thinking it was between round 4 and 8. So it could be out for even longer than expected, which I think would be good for Lukey.
Yeah, definitely tossing up Lukey in my team. And finally, we're going to finish the podcast in a sec, so big thanks to Jett and Wilso. But I'll leave you with one player who's taking the field for the Finns this weekend, Sangster for Gota. I really hope he becomes a cheapie at some stage this year. Catch you later, folks.